Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to celebrate the unionids and gastropods that have dedicated their lives to the Natural History Survey mollusk collection forever. Before we walk down the aisle, I want to prepare you with something old, new, borrowed, and blue. For a background, we have a mollusk collection here on campus. We have over 430,000 specimens from 5,000 species. Most of these are freshwater bivalves and gastropods. We have specimens from all over the world. Most of our diversity comes from Eastern North America, which also coincides with the highest diversity of freshwater bivalves on Earth. Some of these specimens are also quite old, as Andrew Fritz alluded to. We have specimens from the 1860s. Such as this monkey face that was collected by Robert Kennicott in the Mississippi River. So old specimens are important as cultural resources, but also can be very important for modern research. For example, old specimens may unknowingly be documenting the first of a species invasion, such as the Asian clam that we now know invaded Illinois in the 1960s. Not only this, old collections also serve as a baseline for a historical or known range of native species. And having a known range is important because then we can see when a species might be expanding beyond that known range, such as the bank climber, which was previously unknown to Illinois. Then we can direct our research into maybe the mechanisms behind these range shifts. As Dr. Fritz indicated, these shells have been curated so that they can be preserved for hundreds of years. And then they can be used by modern researchers for questions like she's looking at landscape change over time using some of these old shells. Most of our old collection comes from the U of I Museum of Natural History, which has changed hands many times in the past 156 years. But it is now well curated, and we hope that it can benefit from the stability that the Prairie Research Institute offers. In addition to old things, we are always collecting new things. Our biologists have curated and collected several thousand specimens just from 2013 alone. And we're constantly processing a backlog because we also serve as a repository for many other researchers. In addition, this year we're beginning an accession of a marine cone shell collection from John Tucker. We now have one of the largest cone shell collections in the nation, and many of our INHS vouchers were featured in this new guide to living cone shells. So our new collections can sometimes be very important, like the scale shell that was collected for the first time alive in Illinois since 1912. Very important collections like this live scale shell can be verified using new techniques like DNA analysis. In addition to having a tissue collection that can be used for anatomical research, we're now beginning to preserve some of our tissues in cryogenic storage to preserve this DNA for many generations to come. So all of this old stuff and new stuff that we insist on keeping requires some resourceful planning. And so we said yes to the excess cabinets that Yale's museum had. Getting them here was kind of tricky, but we are very thankful to our director's office and the PRI executive directors for helping fund that shipment. So we are trying to fit all these things in a building that has many rooms and that we share with other collections, and it can get kind of tricky. So we're hoping to not dominate too much of the building, but it can be interesting. In addition, we often borrow things. So for example, we have several long-term loans from other institutions that help us fill data gaps for certain research interests, such as describing species from South or Central America that we have few specimens in our own collection. But more often, we serve as the lender. Our most valuable asset as a collection is being a physical resource for researchers to come and use this sort of like a library of organisms. Oftentimes, this research ends up in print or in publication, which is quite important. In addition, with the digital age, we have a new avenue of getting information. So our curator, Kevin Cummings, along with Jeremy Tiemann and others, have spent years going to other institutions to verify and database and photograph specimens so that we can share that information digitally. Kevin's actually at the Smithsonian right now doing that thing. So in addition, our data is available online. If you have a stream or species of interest and you want to check it out, we've been online since the 90s, so you can browse at your leisure. Lastly, something blue. This one's easy. The blue mussel, Mytilus edulis, which we happen to have some in our collection. The most common question we get from a landowner when they see a native bivalve that we've collected and shown them is, can you eat it? And in this case, I can definitely say yes, they're quite delicious. So you are now ready to walk down the aisle. You can come for a visit anytime. We're right here on campus, and our curatorial staff would be happy to assist you. Thank you.